if a new state has to be formed, what are the things to be done? Of course, mass movement is the one which pressurizes the ruling class, which pressurizes the governments and creates an opinion in the society to heed to the demand. Means the demand will become a just demand and people's demand, and you will start the process. But the process of formation of a state is a constitutional process. You cannot just make through the mass movement. Who has to make or create a new state? The parliament. So, for the creation of a new state, parliamentary process is inevitable. We have seen in 1969 agitation, the mass movement was so high, it reached to its peak. There were so many martyrdoms, so many people sacrificed their lives. The whole Telangana society burst into agitation. But in spite of that, one person, that is Indira Gandhi, was not ready to heed to the demand. Indira Gandhi and the political dispensation of those days was not ready to accept the demand. And ultimately, what has done? What is the result? The whole movement watered down to a political process, mere political process, entered into elections, and Telangana Praja Samiti formed and finally merged with Congress, with completely stopping the whole movement without having the traces of it. Now we are talking about the movement in 2000s. We have seen the new phase, the last phase of the Telangana movement entered through a mass movement stage from an intellectual activity and debate. And finally, when it has reached to a point, there need to be a political party which has to take forward the political process to the logical culmination. In our Indian history, we can see some of the parties are formed for the creation of state itself. For example, you can take the example of Jharkhand Mukti Morcha in Jharkhand, Assam Gana Parishad in Assam. Of course, Assam Gana Parishad's demand is not for the creation of new state, but it is for the safeguard of the demands and the interests of the Assam. Assam Gana Parishad's birth was an offshoot of the movement of Assamese, especially ULFA, United Liberation Front of Assam, ran a serious mass movement, and offshoot of this entire movement is Assam Gana Parishad. Though it is not for the creation of a mass movement, we have witnessed a huge public response, and public gathered around Assam Gana Parishad and made a student leader the CM. The student leader went directly from the law college hostel to the chief minister's office. And come to Jharkhand, Jharkhand Mukti Morcha, started by Shibu Soren, was trying to make the voice of the tribals of Jharkhand region visible, audible, and it ran the movement for decades. And unfortunately, for a long time, when the movement was at its peak, it could not succeed. In Uttarakhand, you have a joint front for the formation of the state, but there is a specific party, but it did not come to power. Uttarakhand Sanghar Samiti, USS. All these parties are coming in the wake of the public demand, people's demand of new state. So, here in Telangana, the mass movement has entered into a stage where you need a political party. Again, going back to 1969, in 1969, the huge movement, the huge people's demand of 1969 created an organization which is known as Telangana Praja Samiti. But Telangana Praja Samiti, first it's a agitational movement, agitational organization, then entered into a phase where this Telangana Praja Samiti became a political party and went into elections. Left the mass movement behind and went into elections. Finally, nothing is left for us to talk about it. Now, we are again standing at a juncture. There is a need of a political party which is exclusively born for the idea and the creation of a new state. There fits the bill a party which is coming in this phase, that is known as Telangana Rashtra Samiti, founded by K. Chandrasekhar Rao. Today we will be talking about the TRS and the political movement entering into a new phase. This topic includes the beginnings of TRS until the last phase or last stage of the final phase, that is 14F issue. After 14F issue or 2009 Chidambaram's declaration, we can see a huge change in the political process. It is TRS plus all the other parties and Telangana forces, mass organizations, people. So, this topic today I am going to cover from the birth or inception of Telangana Rashtra Samiti till 2009. So, what is the background for it? See, there is a need for a political party for Telangana. That's what we have discussed just now. So, mass movements can bring people's opinion onto the street. It can make a public outcry visible, audible for the rulers at Delhi. But for the formation of state, the constitutional process is there. It has to be debated in the legislative bodies, means lawmaking bodies, that is assembly or parliament, or the union cabinets has to take a decision to make it into a bill and finally make it into an act and put before the parliament. This is entirely a constitutional process. For that you need a strong party. That is where we are in search of a political grouping. And what about the conditions for the realignment of forces? As we have seen, Telangana movement has brought in many forces. Forces from right to left, extreme right to extreme left. For example, if you talk 1969 movement, Arya Samajis were there. They are not extreme right, but still a reformist organization. But Jansangh like forces are there. To some extent, some people participated in that. And come to extreme left, Naxalite movement is also part of the Telangana movement in 1969-70. Though it is not directly participating, it has an impact on this. The rising Naxalite movement and the cadres who were in 69 movement are coming into Naxalite movement, we have seen. So, in this process, many sections of the Telangana society are coming into the Telangana movement. Basically, in the last phase we are talking, what has happened after 1969? Intellectual group activities are the beginnings. As we have seen at Hyderabad Natakala Press, Kalaji Narayan Rao, Jaishankar or Prabhakar or Harnath or Lakshman or some people are gathering and bringing out pamphlets. And gradually entering into a next stage where we have seen Bhuvanagiri Sabha, Warangal Declaration, Suryapet Declaration, all these bigger movements. So, all these things have changed the whole phase of the movement. So, intellectual group activity to mass movement, and finally, Bhuvanagiri Sabha is the first biggest meeting where thousands of people rallied in the name of Telangana demand. And from then onwards, we did not look backward. We did not see or we did not stop anywhere. Mass movement is the character of the Telangana movement from here. So, large scale mass mobilization is there. This is the situation in the ground. And what is happening on the side of the government? Chandrababu Naidu, who was in power, was the main person who is bringing the liberalization or privatization policies under the globalization. He was directly taking all the World Bank policies into the governance, and finally, what has happened? We have seen the hike in power tariff. We have seen privatization of the industries. All the best industries which are profit making, which are for people, which give employment, were privatized. So, these effects of liberalization and reforms were badly showing up on Telangana people. PSUs are being privatized. For example, the greatest example is Nizam Sugar Factory, which is which is the important source of livelihood for the people in this Nizamabad, Kamareddy, this sugarcane belt. And it was sold. Workers are losing jobs. Farmers are at the mercy of the private companies. Migrations are happening on a large scale from the towns or villages to cities, because you don't have employment opportunities, you don't have livelihood in the village. So, there is a popular saying in the last phase of the movement, always we said when we talked about migration, three things are there for our Telangana people: which provide employment. One is Bogubai. Bogubai means coal mines. Mumbai, again going for some livelihood in these textile factories or some jobs, or Palamur labor going as construction labor in Mumbai and these areas. Third one is Dubai, Gulf. So Bogubai, Mumbai, Dubai. So this formulation we can see about our migration. And weavers were depressed completely. There is no respite for the problems of the weavers. They were committing suicides. And on the other hand, we can see Naxalism. Naxalite movement has grown into a big movement in Telangana. It was making its impact on the society, impact on the feudalism. Feudalism is almost defeated in the villages. And because of the strength of the Naxalism, again, the state government is unleashing terror through its police force. People were subjugated to different terror tactics. They were arrested, they were harassed, parents were harassed, beaten up, and their livelihood is completely shattered. And youth are suspected. Even having a book, Jananatya Mandali songs book with them would have been a crime, and you will be booked under TADA. And such terror conditions were prevailing in Telangana. In this background, again come back to other things like in the rural areas, like irrigation, lack of irrigation facilities, minor irrigation neglected. You lost all the irrigation sources which were there since our ancient times or early medieval times, Kakatiya periods. Tanks gone and wells dried up and going for bore wells. And at this juncture, the reforms are coming. And electricity reforms is one such big reform which is initiated by the World Bank and implemented by Chandrababu Naidu, which has really created panic in the countryside because of the hike in tariff. And they said no free lunches. So everyone has to pay hike in tariff, and you don't have power supply. Without power, you can't irrigate your land. So finally, there was a serious crisis in the countryside, and people, when protested at Bashir Bagh, there was a firing, as we have already discussed. This Bashir Bagh firing has created some what you call stir in the society, not only among the people, among the political people also, political parties also. So, at this juncture, at this point of time, Professor Jayashankar, who was having a clear idea about how the Telangana movement can be taken forward, Professor Jayashankar had a clarity about Telangana movement, because he has seen from 1952 till date, till the formation of TRS, we are talking. So, in this entire process, he could understand the dynamics of the movement. So, he was clearly saying that from RSS to RSU, means extreme right to extreme left, whoever comes for the formation of Telangana, whoever is for Telangana, let's unite. I want to unite them. And he continued his task whenever there is an opportunity. Whenever the movement is on the lowest ebb also, he never discouraged. He never got discouraged. He continued these efforts, group meetings and those things. Finally, we can see in 2000, when the mass movement has grown in size, grown in the volume, and people are coming out onto the streets in thousands for Telangana, Professor Jayashankar found KCR a potential candidate, a potential leader to lead the movement of the next stage. Chandrasekhar Rao, K. Chandrasekhar Rao, Kalvakunta Chandrasekhar Rao, the Deputy Speaker of Assembly, in a letter to Chief Minister, said, see, we are having a troubled times in Telangana rural side. The plight of the farmers is very, very bad. So, the letter by KCR to Chandrababu Naidu, a person in the government, in the political party, ruling party, writing or showing his dissent is a signal that everything is not right in the party. And at least the person who has written, that is KCR, is ready to realign with the Telangana movement. This is a signal. And immediately Jayashankar and his fellow activists like Gadayanaya, V. Prakash, all those people who were involved in the next phase of Telangana movement met KCR in October 2000, and there were intense debates amongst them for the preparations of the Telangana movement to take it into the next stage. Remember, Jaishankar was the convener of Telangana Aikya Vedika. By this time, we have seen the mass movement into two streams. One is Telangana Aikya Vedika, the other is Telangana Janasabha. These are the two biggest streams. Telangana Aikya Vedika is initiated after the Suryapet declaration, and many forces who were into Telangana Aikya Vedika were ready to go into elections. The other force, that is Telangana Janasabha, was not into Telangana elections or anywhere. They were not ready to go into elections. In this background, those who are ready to go into elections, jump into parliamentary electoral politics, took the opportunity and met KCR, and thus a new phase has been started. For 7 months, as I said, they held discussions to prepare the stage for launching of a political party. People like Professor Jaishankar, Madhusudhanachari, Gade Innaya, Professor Biyala Janardhan Rao, V. Prakash, Santapuri Raghubir Rao, Singireddy Niranjan Reddy, all these people were having deliberations, discussions how to proceed further. And at this point of time, the Supreme Court gave an order to the TDP government to conduct the elections to local bodies, that is ZPs, MPP and your panchayats and all those things. At this point of time, the people who are holding discussions were ready to launch a party around this time, means during the local body elections. You see, all the parties which are forming for Telangana before were not looking at the elections as an apt time. It is the mass movement which will be held, despite of whether elections are there or not. But here, elections are the important source, elections are important fields to fight out. That is what the people now we are talking about are thinking. That is why they took the opportunity and they thought that elections, local body elections is the right time to launch the party. And the people, these people who are organizing themselves into a new group, invited many in TDP, Congress to join the new party whenever they start, because people has to understand the importance and understand the waning away of the impact of Telugu Desam government. The CEO of Andhra Pradesh, Chandrababu Naidu, his impact on Telangana society is so bad. So in this background, if political parties or political people has to understand the situation, they have to align with the new party. If I look at the interview given by KCR immediately after the Simhagarjana Sabha of Karimnagar to a site, he says, I have been deliberating on the issue for the last 18 months or so. I have spent close to 3,000 hours discussing the issue with intellectuals, experts, lawyers, other professionals, academics, students, businessmen and other sections of society. Actually, there is no other section because he has covered all the sections. So 3,000 hours of debate, discussion about Telangana. A lot of thought and planning has gone into working out the strategy for the movement for a separate Telangana state. Means they are thinking of a strategy. The strategy is participating in elections and pressurizing the governments to make the resolution for Telangana. That is important. The formation of 3 new states, that is Jharkhand, Uttaranchal, then it was Uttaranchal, now it is Uttarakhand, and Chhattisgarh, recently rekindled the aspirations of the people of Telangana, he said. This was an interview given immediately after the Telangana Simha Garjana at Karimnagar in 2001. So, after making these preparations, on 27th April 2001, the party, Telangana Rashtra Samiti was launched. TRS, Telangana Rashtra Samiti. This party was launched as a Udyama party, agitational party. Though elections is a main strategy, the main form of your struggle is agitation and pressurizing the governments at some critical junctures like voting or formation of government. This was the basic idea behind formation of a political party in terms of participation of elections. So, 2001, they have formed a political party at Jaladrishyam. Jaladrishyam, the residence of Konda Lakshman Bapuji, who gave his residence to Telangana Aikya Vedika people. Telangana Aikya Vedika was running its office from Jaladrishyam. So, at Jaladrishyam, he started this office, that is TRS meeting was held. Huge gathering again. It is not a small thing because already he was in power as the MLA from Siddipeta, as the deputy speaker, and he was a minister in state government under N.T. Ramarao and later too. So finally, the influence of KCR in Telangana parties, TDP, and some of the people who are active in Telangana movement, everyone gathered, and at Jaladrishyam, the party was launched. You can see the photograph, a rare photograph, the first photograph when the party was launched in Jaladrishyam. So on that same date, he resigned to the post of deputy speaker, MLA, and primary membership of Telugudesam party. Since then, he was the member of TRS, leader of TRS, and again, every time he was going to people's court, he was going to elections asking vote for Telangana formation, not vote for TRS. Voting for Telangana formation is a concept always in all the elections he was doing. Remember this. Till the last phase, that is 2014 also, you can see voting for Telangana formation, voting for a new Telangana after the formation of this one. So Telangana formation was the agenda in the elections. That is the major aspect TRS has brought into Telangana politics. Voting for Telangana formation. Remember this word. Other mass movements are making the agitation, making the Telangana movement or demand popular. It is not little, it is not a small effort. It has its impact. It is on one side and this is on the other side. So this is the idea of Professor Jayashankar, combining the mass movements with the parliamentary political maneuvering, parliamentary political dynamics. So mixing mass movement with parliamentary political activism. So this is the basic concept of Professor Jayashankar, which was brought into reality by TRS. Understand this as the core philosophy of the entire activities of Professor Jayashankar and KCR. So, after declaring Telangana Rashtra Samiti, KCR planned Simha Garjana Sabha at Karimnagar. Remember, at Karimnagar he is starting major activities. Whenever he is starting, he started Simha Garjana Sabha in Karimnagar, again going to elections from Karimnagar, starting all the meetings from Karimnagar, so that he is pointing out the entire movement from North Telangana's one of the important center. In South Telangana post 1969, why he is focusing on North Telangana? This is very interesting. This is my analysis as a student of political science. The analysis we should do is North Telangana's political scenario is completely different. South Telangana after 1969 got colonized to a larger extent. For example, you take the surroundings of Hyderabad city and Medak district, you can see up to Sangareddy, you can see up to this one. Lot of colonization was done because of the influx of the Andhras into entrepreneurship, into employment, into businesses, into many things. So, in this background, North Telangana is still unaffected in that sense. And North Telangana, very important is, North Telangana is politically volatile because of the intense Naxalite movement in North Telangana. In South Telangana, it is a little bit less. So, keeping this in background, the movements will help, one movement will help the other movement. And Karimnagar is standing apart from the other centers, and Karimnagar is becoming the focus or the fulcrum of the entire thing. 17th May, he declared the meeting, that is, a meeting was to be held at Karimnagar in the name of Simha Garjana Sabha. On 11th May, as part of preparations, the TRS flag was hoisted in hundreds of villages. TRS has brought in some new things into people's minds or into society. For example, pink is the color. Most of the political parties never used this pink. This is a unique color TRS has brought in. So, pink color and the cassettes, he brought in many songs written by Suddal Ashok Teja and some of the people who are into Telangana activism or Telangana's, they know the heart of Telangana, soul of Telangana. Those cassettes were released. So, a creation of complete, a background was being done before Karimnagar Sabha. So, From on 17th, they took a rally from Jaladrishyam to Karimnagar. En route, there was a huge response from the people, rousing welcome by the people. Professor Biala Janardhan Rao, or Jayashankar, or K. Chandrasekhar Rao, all these leaders who were traveling in the whole route were completely inspired by the reaction of the people, inspired by the welcome of the people, the aspirations of the people. You can see when the whole caravan, this rally was being taken from Hyderabad to Karimnagar. So this is the first, what you call, measurement or first indication of the mood of Telangana. Means they are ready to welcome anyone who is talking about Telangana, who is going to make this Telangana a reality. So the first public meeting was a grand success, and as we can see, K. Chandrasekhar Rao or KCR, who is a great orator, he can attract the masses through his speeches because of his understanding of the pulse of the masses. He knows the pulse of the masses, talking in their own language, taking the idioms or proverbs from the people's life and explaining it in a very, very casual manner. It is not a format which is completely a what you call pandit-like or a scholar-like. It is the people's language he speaks. And since then, no looking back for the oratorial skills of KCR. He was speaking in the people's language and people got attracted. That is why even till date, whenever KCR is going to speak, there will be an very, very prompt silence to listen what he is saying. Means the people's language. This is very important for a political leader, for a mass leader. So he was speaking on the plight of Telangana, farmers' plight, their suicides and irrigation facilities and lack of all the facilities or lack of employment in Telangana. So the need of the political party he was explaining in Karimnagar through Karimnagar meeting, that is Simhagarjana Sabha. Shibu Soren, who was the leader of Jharkhand Mukti Morcha, came as a chief guest and he also got inspired. And in this meeting, Jayashankar, Gada Ennaya, some people who are into the first preparatory program of the TRS spoke at length, and they have explained their intentions that we are going to start a party and this party is going to be the party for the Telangana formation. And with the success of this meeting at Karimnagar, immediately the sequel means there was a continuous meetings held in the month of June at Mahbubnagar, Nalgonda, Nizamabad, Nirmal, Warangal, everywhere. They continued the series of meetings, and with the series of meetings, we have seen the impact growing inside the Telangana society, where people are getting the pulse or people are getting the understanding that now again our movement has to be taken into a higher phase through mass movement plus political process, because this is a political party which came for Telangana. What were the political parties? Congress and TDP are there. Their agenda is not just Telangana. If at all Telangana TDP or Telangana Congress leaders are talking about Telangana, it is not the main agenda. It is part of the agenda at times, that too. If at all there is a pressure from the people, you will be talking about it. Otherwise, you don't. So, in this background, if a political party is coming for Telangana, people are accepting it. So, this is the thing. And immediately, within the 3 months of the launch of the party, elections to local bodies were held in July 2001. So, a short notice actually, 3 months. And local bodies. Local body elections are always intense because few number of voters and everyone will be knowing each other and intense thing. Then individual things are primary in local bodies, but TRS could make a dent in that understanding. Though individual people, individual relations play an important role in local bodies, TRS won many seats. TDP, so at this point of time, a national magazine has written like, the TDP cycle hits the T factor trough as the Jilla Parishad polls deliver a rude wake-up call for the party, wake-up call for TDP. From here onwards, you can see 2001 to 2004, TDP, which was in a strong position, no opposition, and the nose diving or the sliding down of the power of TDP in Telangana, you can see from 2001. In the local body elections, TRS won 87 ZPTC, 100 plus MPTC and 2 ZPs. Santosh Reddy got elected as ZP chairman of Nizamabad. KV Rajeshwar Rao got elected as Karimnagar ZP chairman. And next, in the month of August, Panchayat elections are done. Many sarpanches who were supported by TRS, because it is indirect election, won the seats. And finally, KCR, who resigned from the MLA seat from Siddipet, again contested and re-elected in the by-elections. Thus, we have seen the whole process from political formulation, that is need of a political party, to starting of a political party and facing the first elections successfully and becoming a registered political party in the spectrum of political parties has begun. So, TRS now is there as a political party, and TRS is here to stay from here onwards and taking different strides in different movements, and thus Telangana Rashtra Samiti formation is a change in the Telangana political movement. In the next class, in the next episode, we will be discussing the other aspects of TRS from this point till 2009 declaration of Chidambaram.